In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Ritz Furniture specializes in quality furniture for affordable prices. Our extensive inventory highlights top brands and provides everything you could ever want. You can count on us for kitchen, dining, bedroom, and living room furniture, no matter what the style is you have in mind. Stop in with your family and look at our amazing selection to find the perfect fit for your home. Contact us today to see how we can make a difference in your home.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into Inside Smoky Mountain Conference presented by Team FYN Sports. Jake West, joined as always by Brandon Stevens. We are entering into the first round of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association 1A state playoffs. We'll take a look at the bracket in just a second. All of our Smoky Mountain Conference teams will at least be playing in round 1. 3 of them have a home game in round 1. And we should see some pretty good football. We've got some teams that looking to pull off some upsets. Got some teams making some long trips, and then like some teams looking to protect their home turf.
Things look pretty cool, Jake. I mean, I think we could see some at least 1 or 2 exciting games. You know, usually in these first rounds of the state playoffs, it's especially if you're a higher seed, you come in and you get a weaker team, or at least that's I'll just lay it out on the line like how it probably is. Some teams who are not that well accomplished through the season, and some that really are. And you always have that supposition that, okay, well, I'm a 10-0 team, say like Eastern Randolph, that you probably see, or a Mount Airy that just blew away everybody. And well, okay, jumping out there, just glancing at that first bracket, Mount Airy, number 1 seed, number 32, Thomas Jefferson, you look and say, well, that's going to easily be a Mount Airy game, and they'll look to take on probably a hard-fought Mountain Island Charter and Bishop McGuinness. That's not always the case. I mean, they're giant killers amongst the bunch too, or if you don't come prepped to play, and the coaches will tell you play 1 game at a time and all that good stuff. But some of them are quite obvious, I think, in this. And I think that Western brackets, everybody has a game in that bracket. Eastern brackets, a couple teams decided, yeah, they made the cut, but they're choosing not to play. So 3 teams. But anyhow, I think there could be at least 2 real close games in the Smoky Mountain Conference in some of those. We can talk about that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's go game by game in the Western Conference bracket over here. First round, number 1 overall seed Mount Airy. They're going to be at home until the state playoffs if they keep winning. Hosting Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson is not the Thomas Jefferson that we've seen the past, 5 or so years. They've fallen off quite a bit. They barely squeak into the playoffs here. Mount Airy may score 70 points if they want to in this one, and they will move on. No doubt in my mind. I don't think we need to spend much time talking about that one. 16 and 17, that's where things get a little bit hairy. Mountain Island Charter, Bishop McGuinness. I think that that still goes to the top seed, in my opinion. To Mountain Island Charter will move on and travel to Mount Airy next round. Then you've got South Stanley and Avery County. Avery County just coming off the big upset over Mitchell. But I don't think they get it done against South Stanley and then Star Mountain Andrews. So in this first quadrant, Brandon, anything you see that you'd like to kind of pick apart here, obviously aside from Star Mountain Andrews?
No, I mean, this, again, look, when you dig into some of these teams, I think you're spot on that, Mount Airy probably plays next week. Mountain Island probably plays next week. That's the real coin tosser. If we watched Bishop McGuinness last year when Murphy went out to play them in the second round of the state playoffs. Not a bad little team, but I think that probably Mountain Island Charter gets the work done. South Stanley, to me, just a stronger team than Avery County, even though they had the upset last week.
Yeah.
There you go. I think you're dead on. So let's move down here to Starmount and see what's going on, because this is interesting. I believe a 9-1 team that comes through in that Northwest 1A 2A conference, and they were number 2 in their conference, but this is a team that's big. It's physical. They will throw multiple sets at you. And pretty much, Jake, once you kind of leave the mountains, and I'm talking about like the big northern mountains, you get past Buncombe County, you leave places like Jackson, Transylvania County, going east down into the lower foothills, and especially into the Piedmont, you start seeing teams that don't necessarily run the veer. You don't necessarily start seeing teams that are in an I formation quite a bit, or wing T. Definitely not. This is a team that they're big where they need to be. They are small and fast where they need to be. And Starmount is a big opponent for Andrews.
Yeah, you take a look at their schedule. 43-0, 45-0, 58-0, 49-0. Then they go play Mount Airy at home, 17-14. The closest game Mount Airy's played in probably 2 years. Then 65-0, 55-6, 35-20, 56-14, 55-21. They score a lot of points, and like you said, they do most of their they move the ball mostly through the air. 1,600 yards, 26 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions from Collins, their senior quarterback. They do not have a 1,000-yard rusher, but they've got a senior running back who has averaging about 9 yards a carry. And they've got a backfield they've got 5 guys with 5 touchdowns, 5 or more touchdowns. So, pretty scary offensively. And then you go and, like we just looked at their schedule, 78 points allowed, and 20 of those came against East Wilkes, 14 came against Mount Airy. So, this is a tough football team, a very tough draw for Andrews in the first round. And then having to go there, not an easy task for Andrews, an Andrews team that has really struggled as of late. They're 4-5, but their 4 wins come against Rosman, Hayesville early in the year, Calhoun Falls Charter, and then a 2-0 win over Swain County. They're on a 4-game losing skid right now. Cherokee, Robbinsville, Murphy, and then they lost to Hayesville 26-10. Traveling to Starmount. They had the week off last week. We know that the injury bug really hit them hard. If they can get back healthy, then maybe they can keep this thing a ball game. But I just think this is, Starmount is, when you lose to Mount Airy by 3 points, you are a very, very good football team. And Starmount is a very, very, very good football team.
You kind of stole my thunder there. I think the one thing that jumped off the page at me when, you've got all these others like Elkin, Carborough, East Wilkes. Now, East Wilkes is not a soft soap team. They're a really hard-nosed football team. That one doesn't surprise me that they played them a little bit close. Any of those Wilkes County teams, they come to play football. Some of them, smaller schools don't have as many students, so you go around there, kind of like Henderson County. You've got the schools that come from all the directions. I say the news teams, northeast, west, south. But when you play Mount Airy, the Granite Bears, and you play them tough, and of course, I think last year when Murphy had to travel to Mount Airy, it was a good football game up until about halftime, trailing about 10 points. And then Robbinsville played them in the next round, competitive game there to go on to the state championship. Yeah, you're right. When you play real close to Mount Airy, and, whether you're and that one was played at Starmount. A little advantage there maybe, but still, anytime the Granite Bears roll into town or you go to their place, tough football game. So again, to this one, let me just get to cut through all the talk. This one could easily be like a Starmount 42-7 win over Andrews.
Yeah, Starmount looks very tough, and like you said, play on the road is it's going to be very hard. Hopefully Andrews is back healthy, but looking at this first quadrant, you go down into that third round. And it looks like we're going to have a good rematch between Mount Airy and Starmount if all things play out the way we're thinking they are. I know Starmount will have to go on the road in round 2 to South Stanley, but I think Starmount's a better team. And then you get that conference rematch on Black Friday in the third round. So be some things to watch out for coming down the stretch as these teams start advancing. So let's move on down. Corby and Community, and Elkin, Mitchell, and Drawn, Cherokee, and Carver, and Eastern Randolph, and Swain County. So if Cherokee and Swain County, if Swain County is able to pull off the upset against Eastern Randolph, and Cherokee, holds fast at home against Carver, then we've got a Smoky Mountain Conference matchup in round 2. We made Mitchell and Drawn, 2 teams that have already played before, I'm pretty sure, and then Corby and Community and Elkin. Anything jump off the page at you there in this quadrant?
Well, I think, first of all, Elkin in that first bracket, they've been working to rebuild for a few years. Elkin used to be the showstopper for the Smoky Mountain Conference. I know Cherokee's been there a time or two. Robbinsville, it seemed like every year drew or would come down into the brackets and would meet up with Elkin up there with the bucking elk. Always hated having to say that on radio, but because you might slip up and sound like an expletive. I think that easily Elkin goes home and gets ready for basketball in that bracket, and Corbin really comes around, and I think you'll see them coming into the second round of playoffs. Mitchell may have the upper hand, but Drawn may have a little bit lower seed, but I'm picking an upset there in that one. I'm thinking that little team from Valdez coming up, and they're tougher than steel. And they've got the taste for winning. They came down. We watched them how good they were against Andrews a few years ago. I don't think they've lost too much of that flavor. Mitchell has not had. It's not been the biggest banner year for Mitchell, and I think that just being a little bit weaker team than what they show up on paper, I think this one, Drawn may pull this one out. But I think the rest of them kind of fall the way you may expect. Let's talk Eastern Randolph for just a few seconds. So a couple of doing a little bit of homework on Eastern Randolph. I think that the intelligence I have from them is that the one thing you really have to look back at the Wildcats. One, they're 10-0. They play in that, and they're 5-0. They were number one team in the state. They faced number one team in the state, Randleman, and that was a good football game. And this team is just from the couple of coaches I was able to talk to leading up to the show this week. Saying, the team this year that right now all eyes are posted on Mount Airy because one, they won state championship, but Eastern Randolph may be a stronger team. these are some coaches that have played close to or played Eastern Randolph. I think that this is really going to be an uphill battle. I mean, you're going to have to get everything together. You and I watched the Robbinsville Swain County game. You can make absolutely no mistakes in this football game. You're gonna have to protect Owen Medlin, quarterback. Make sure that things roll out. That's going to be key. I mean, Coach Sherman Holt has been talking all year about ball security, and that's one of the keys that Swain County's been struggling. And if you go into, especially making that long 5-hour bus ride that they're getting ready to make. And already Murphy, Robbinsville, they know that there's no easy way to get to Eastern Randolph. Eastern Randolph actually used to be a much larger school than what it is now. And in the age that we're living in, where everybody's wanting to consolidate schools, they're actually decentralizing a lot of their schools, so they're smaller than what they once were. But doesn't matter the past. The present is that this team plays very competitive. It's not a cupcake schedule at all. They play very competitive, very tough teams that are again. This is the doorway to going on to Raleigh down in mid-December.
Yeah, definitely, and it looks like I think Cherokee takes care of business at home against Carver. They're going to have to make that road trip once again. So I think. Corbion's got a pretty easy path to Eastern Randolph, and honestly, Eastern Randolph's path to Corbion is not going to be the hardest we've seen yet. So I think we're going to see, Mount Airy is going to end up with back-to-back games, probably with Starmount and then Eastern Randolph before they go to the Western Regional Championship game. So, not the easiest draw for the defending state champs.
Let me say one other thing. I glossed over Cherokee Carver game. The couple coaches I was able to talk to. One is Carver on paper looking pretty good, but they're going to have to travel to Cherokee, and both of them were concerned to say, well, how cold does it get in the mountains? We've been experiencing just almost like summertime weather, down here in the Triad, in the surrounding areas. So I'm not just talking about Winston-Salem, Greensboro, High Point, but all the areas that relatively surround that area. And they're used to getting out and stretching out in the sunshine and a lot of heat and that sort of thing. Go up there and freeze your butt off in the mountains, and then also get knocked down by some of these hard-hitting mountain teams. Really, their whole thing was coming in this and saying, "Look, Carver's dropped off. It's not the team that it once used to be. They don't take care of the ball. Their fumbles and interceptions, some miscues in their plays, and pretty much the guess here is that Cherokee could take this game and not maybe like just run away with it like a 56-0 score, but the guess here is that Cherokee advances, and probably in an estimation from what I was saying earlier that it might be a Cherokee going to Eastern Randolph.
Yeah, I think so as well. Cherokee's got a lot of things to clean up after watching that Murphy game, that Swain County Conference championship game. They've got a lot of things to clean up. They got to take care of the football, just like you mentioned with Swain County, but they can move the ball when they're clicking. So should set up a decent matchup in Eastern Randolph in round 2. But moving down, once again, Murphy and Highland Tech. Won't spend too much time on that. That's going to be a bloodbath. Allegheny, Christ the King. That could be a close game right there. Bessemer City, South Stokes. That's all Bessemer City. And Robbinsville and Thomasville. Also another intriguing matchup for me in the first round.
Where do you want to start first? I mean, we can leave the meat and potatoes of Murphy, or we can just start with Murphy and say Highland Tech. really
I
in
mean,
this.
there's not much that needs to be said about that. Island Tech
Just
comes
give you
into the game,
just give you some specifics for those fans that don't know. Highland Tech has not been a good year. They're coming in, just right at the crack at the door. You can see they've got a 30 seed, 3-6 on the season, dead last in the conference, 0-6. They play in that 1A, 2A Southern Piedmont Conference. And really, Jonah Jeffries, probably their best athlete. He's the halfback. This is a spread team that spreads you out, but they don't have a whole lot of luck with it. They've tried to do everything they can to simulate strength, speed, endurance, and it's not there. And quite frankly, I think if you force me into saying, well, what do you think the score is going to be or whatnot, easily, depending if it's a rolling clock, which I suspect that's probably going to happen. And if Coach Watson pulls the Cameron Clems, the Cadence Leatherwoods, and the Ryan Paynes and the Brady Grants out of the game, like I suspect he might, and you start seeing, the Blakes, the Paytons, the others that come in to get a little experience in this game, it could be a time may run out. But I'm saying 56-3. Let's stop rambling. And this is not the largest team that you're ever going to see. A couple of big guys on the front line that are out there, but the bigger part is it a night that Murphy could kind of exercise a few things? Look at some passing. This is not the biggest coverage team. We could probably outspeed them. So I think that you're probably right. The question is the next week when you're facing an Allegheny or a Christ the King, which in estimation that's going to be a good close football game. But kind of stepping into that through that door. What are they? The Spartans. Yep. I think they'll advance, and and send Christ the King to the house. So that's kind of an odd thing to say, but
you said, you don't like to say the when you're broadcasting, you don't like to say the Buck and Elks. Well, what about the Allegheny Trojans from Sparta, North Carolina?
Trojans, that's it.
Sparta, North Carolina. Yeah.
Well, we've faced them, several times before, and a lot of times you find them early in your schedule because they don't do so well up there in Sparta. That's it. They're in the town of Sparta, and the Allegheny County is really small. It's I've always said this, like if you could kind of flip North Carolina like a piece of origami paper. Clay County and Allegheny County would match up perfectly. So if you get an idea of where they come from, and I've said this over and over and over. Long time ago, there's not much in the town except for the high school and football, and the Dr. Graybo Pipe Factory, and a lot of them spend a lot of time in Galax, Virginia. They're so close up there. It's like saying, well, we'll go over into Towns County, Hiawassee, and have a good time. That sort of thing. But the bottom line is not a lot of students, and they suffer that way. But I think Allegheny from time to time shows some poise, shows some dexterity, and will make a stand here and there. But I think easily we could probably see Murphy and Allegheny playing in the second round.
Yeah, I think that Allegheny Cross the King game is interesting. Depends on which version of what football team shows up. Bessemer City, South Stokes, that's going to be Bessemer City. Robbinsville and Thomasville, that could be a close football game as far as first round games are concerned.
Well, the bigger, I'll jump into the Robbinsville-Thomasville game because that one I think is going to be more interesting. I think easily Bessemer City, Bessemer City is a tough team. if you stacked up the tough teams, the Mount Airy's, the Randlemans, or not Randleman, the Star Mounts and Mountain Heritages and the Murphys and everybody else, probably somewhere in the middle of the pack, you're going to come up with Bessemer City. As you can see, they drew a 6 seed, and that's not for any small reason. I think this one is, what's the phrase used earlier? Bloodbath. I think that's what's probably going to happen here in that football game. And I move Bessemer City over to next week to the second round of the state playoffs with ease. That one easily like a 35-13, 35-7 football game.
Yeah, and that sets up a game with either the winner, Robbinsville and Thomasville. Thomasville not having the greatest year, but neither is Robbinsville. 4-6, Thomasville versus 5-6 Robbinsville. It is at the Big Oaks. We saw some impact players were not on the field Friday night when Robbinsville took on Swain County. So that's going to play a factor in this one, obviously. But I don't know. This is definitely a lot tougher first round matchup than Robbinsville is used to having.
Well, a couple things I believe here is that one of the keys with Thomasville is that you have to have a good passing game. Now, while we were on the sidelines at the Robbinsville Swain game Friday night, the peanut gallery behind me said, Stevens, you're going to have a lot to talk about on that show this week about this football game. And I was like, well, yeah, you could really unravel that game quite a bit. But the one thing that I saw that was very salient with it is quarterback and passing. And the one thing here is that in Thomasville, 4-6, one of the key characteristics that I saw is like blown coverage. And what I mean by that is blown passing coverage. This is not the best team that in their secondary looking for passes. They've been burnt quite a bit. So if Robbinsville can turn around and get Bryce Adams rifling the ball down and threading the needle a couple times, I think that you can probably make some headway. This might be a game where you pass to rush rather than rushing to pass. And but Thomasville, the one of the tougher teams that they faced this year was T.W. Andrews, not Andrews out in Cherokee County, but T.W. Andrews down in the Triad. Played them tough. 21-20 was the final score there, with T.W. Andrews winning that football game. When you play T.W. Andrews has always been, as far back as I can remember, whether you play them in volleyball or baseball or any sport in between, this is a team that's very competitive, and they play amongst a lot of really, really good teams whatever the competition may be of any sport. But so it's kind of saying something. But I think if Robbinsville can dial in its offense, specifically the passing game, it might really coast on through. Playing at Big Oaks, you don't have all the men that you used to have that were out on the football team. This is a weaker Robbinsville that I saw too many times. Bryce Adams landing on the ground, too many incomplete passes. You got to clean that up. You've got to protect Adams. You've got to get some other folks running the. Was it Isaac Collins that was running the football?
Yeah, they brought some of the younger kids in from that JV team. Mm. Cameron Allison scored his first touchdown in varsity action. But I think, you mentioned the passing. Two best passes I've seen in the Smoky Mountain Conference came last week from Bryce Adams. He found Darian Ledbetter streaking down the sideline twice for huge gains, like 35 and 42 or something like that. So they have the ability to take the top off, and if they're facing a Thomasville team that is lackadaisical in their coverage of the deep ball, then I think, Robbinsville has just a good a chance to win this game as any. Like we said, Thomasville is a tougher draw than they're used to facing as they get the 11 seed and Thomasville gets the 22. But Thomasville having some problems of their own. And then that sets up Robbinsville versus Bessemer City, a Bessemer City team that is a benefit of the way that the RPI and everything works. They're 7-4, finished third in their conference. Lost to Union Academy, lost to Burns and Shelby, obviously, but the Union Academy loss doesn't look great. They beat Highland Tech 34-0. They've put up some big numbers against some weaker teams, but I think as far as second round draw is concerned, Robbinsville, kind of hit all sevens on the slot machine here because I think I'm going to go ahead and say I think in the Black Friday game, third round, we've got Robbinsville coming to Murphy for a SMC rematch on down the line. Murphy beats Highland Tech. They beat Allegheny. And then we've got Robbinsville beating Thomasville, Robbinsville beating Bessemer City. I think we see a Smoky Mountain Conference rematch here in this quadrant.
I'd like to take that step with you, but I'm thinking a little bit different. I think Robbinsville will do the work and get past Thomasville. The larger question to me is Bessemer City. They're 5 seeds above you, but that one's going to be played in Bessemer City. I think Bessemer City will squeak that one out, and you'll see Bessemer City going to Murphy down around Black Friday is where things will land with that one, because I think probably if we line it back up and say Murphy and Allegheny, Murphy could take Allegheny and then have the time of its life in the third round.
So let's move on to our last quadrant here, Brandon. We've got Hayesville Union Academy, East Wilkes, Albemarle, North Rowan, Cherryville, Mountain Heritage, and North Stokes. This looks like Mountain Heritage is going to run through this entire quadrant here and end up playing in that fourth round game on December 6th against either Murphy, Robbinsville, Bessemer City, one of those teams that comes out of there. But Mountain Heritage home field advantage until the Western Regional Championship, and they're going to take advantage of it. They're going to run through North Stokes. Union Academy Hayesville's game we'll talk about that I think could be winnable for Hayesville. East Wilkes and Albemarle, North Rowan and Cherryville. North Rowan moving on, East Wilkes moving on. Not anything exciting in this quadrant, in my opinion.
I don't know. I think we need to go really deep into the analysis of the North Rowan Cherryville game.
Yeah.
No, that's again the Jake Westism bloodbath there. Might be a little more exciting with East Wilkes and Albemarle. The Bulldogs down there, and we know Albemarle, but they've had the time of their life coming back to be the Albemarle that we knew in the late 2000s, and very competitive, but it's not the Albemarle Bulldogs of old. Union Academy, do you want to open up that door?
Yeah, Union Academy will come in hosting Hayesville, coming off a loss to South Stanley and a loss to Albemarle in back-to-back weeks. They do have wins against Christ the King, Bessemer City, Trinity, but a good draw for Hayesville. And if Hayesville plays the way they did against Andrews, I think they come away with a victory here in round one, and they travel to Mountain Heritage, which doesn't seem fun for anyone. But I think Hayesville makes it out of the first round here.
I think you're probably right. If Hayesville keeps everything together, I mean, the one big question has always been in Hayesville is who's the quarterback? Is Coker back there? What's going on? Is Michael Monty throwing the ball? I think they're a little stability, getting everything grouped and being really sound and ready to get into this football game and execute and do well, there's no reason why. Union Academy 5-5. I think they finished relatively closer to the bottom of their conference, like in 5th place.
Yeah.
But I think that it's almost like my Dallas Cowboys. They're just not doing well. And one of the best things that probably Dallas has is the special teams, the kicker and the punter. And that's the case here. So Union Academy, almost taking that flavor from Arlington, Texas, is the best way I can pair them up. Special teams, they have an excellent kicker. It's kept them in the game. Field goals, punter, punting anywhere from and ball placement is key. Place Hayesville deep in its own territory. This punter is capable 40 to 55 yards. On punts, very accurate, can place the ball well. That's one of the keys. I mean, it's you may not think a whole lot, but if you're 3 and out and you're getting ready to punt, and you're deep in your own territory, get that ball out there and get it on down the field. And with a lot more clean and green in front of Hayesville, a lot of work to do. That can be special. The kicker. Every time kickoff comes around, it's in the back of the end zone. So you're going to start folks out at the 20-yard line. But this is a team that really, again, spread offense. Might see a little bit of ace spread, something like that. But the one of the better positions on this team, and his name escapes me, but tight end. When really getting into this football game, nice tight end swing pass, something like that. That's probably what you're going to look for. But Union Academy, I think probably I can say a very might be a tight game, but Hayesville could launch itself into the second round of the state playoffs. If it is, this is going to be like one of those 21-10 football games, 21-17 football games. It may not even be that high scoring, depending. Might even see a lower 7-3 football game, depending on the defense. The defense is going to be one of the biggest keys in this football game, keeping the Union Academy folks off kilter, getting the backfield. I mean, those are some simple things that but they're very crucial to this football game. But this one, I'm almost going to say, if you can move the football, take care of it, the special teams may not even be that big of an impact. But I'm saying for Union Academy, that's probably one of their biggest strengths that I see, and they're tied in.
So as we look at the bracket as a whole, any upsets that you want to call off the bat here, Brandon? We'll start back at the top. Mount Airy, Thomas Jefferson, no upset. Mount Island, Bishop McGinnis, no upset. South Stanley, Avery County,
No.
Nope.
Bigger, I think, bigger seed there moves on to the second round.
What about Mitchell and Drawn?
Remember, I came back and I was telling you, I think that might be an upset. I think that Drawn may come in and I'm saying they are going to they'll move to the second round.
Yeah. Cherokee and Carver. I think Cherokee's taking that one home.
Cherokee goes to the second round.
Yep. Allegheny, Christ the King.
Yeah, close game with Cherokee and Carver, but I think that Christ the King goes home in that one. And I think Allegheny comes to Murphy.
Robbinsville, Thomasville, you think Robbinsville comes?
I think Robbinsville, I think, again, before everybody's like in Robbinsville throwing rocks at the screen. No, I'm not saying like they're not capable or anything like that. But if you do a same performance that you did at Swain County, you may go to the house. But the bigger piece here is get a good passing game and do what you're capable of doing, and you get past Thomasville. Thomasville, again, is not going to be the easiest one, but I think Robbinsville gets on to the second round.
And I think we both think Hayesville can beat Union Academy, and we both think there's no chance anyone in this quadrant beats Mountain Heritage. But
No, and again, I think North Row N goes on down to the second round of the state playoffs. So that one's pretty easy.
So that's the first round matchups. We'll be back next week, same time, Thursday. Hopefully we've got 6 more games to talk about. Hopefully, or 5 more, because I think we'll end up with Cherokee and Swain County if both of them end up winning. But hopefully all of our Smoky Mountain Conference teams win. Some of them have some tall tasks ahead of them. Others just need to stay healthy and keep on chugging along. But
we're not going to play this all the way out to going to Carter Finley Stadium.
No.
Getting to the championship, because that's what that's what everybody's asking. Like, what do you think? You think we can get to the state championship? The other one, I think, just real quickly glancing into the East, a couple of bigger schools have another idle week. Couldn't hurt you or help you, but the East is always an interesting place to be and look. For all these little schools that come up in the way that the state is kind of sectioned down to who's in the East, who's in the West. But Tarboro is always on everybody's lips. Can we beat Tarboro? Can we? Are they going to be the state champions again, or are they going to make a run? Of course, that's a tough team. But otherwise, no, it's exciting sitting here in the always in the round of 64. This time of the year.
All right. Well, Swain at Eastern Randolph, Hayesville at Union Academy, Andrews at Starmount, Cherokee versus Carver, Robbinsville versus Thomasville, and Murphy versus Highland Tech. We'll keep you updated on our Facebook with all those final scores, and we'll be back next week to talk about round 2. Brandon, thanks as always. This has been Inside Smoky Mountain Conference.